I think I'm really learning this time around the year should be.
And so let's close your laptop. We're gonna get to the laptop part later. I read my syllabus this morning. How is everyone doing today? Good. Do you have a good weekend? Watch any basketball games? Yes. So exciting to see women's basketball having it's a moment now, right? It's kind of surprising to see the drastic changes in just a few years. And I heard on the radio, and they were having the discussion because I have long commute. So I got lots of my information from the radio. Because one thing we need to think about, yeah, it's great to have this college female basketball players making their moment, but how to make it sustainable if they proceed to the professional level. Because both in soccer and basketball, there are quite many big name female athletes on non-professional level. But the problem is once they get onto a professional level, we hear less about them. So how can we solve that problem is something to think about, especially in this classroom, we have quite many athletes. So yeah, I was reading the syllabus and I realized that we are about a week or one class behind our schedule. Not exactly sure how that happened, but we definitely need to speed up. Okay, so last week I met with each of the group to talk about your survey questions. And then today I will give you some more tips about making that survey. Please definitely take notes. And also when we talk about some of those tips, relate them to your own survey. Okay, make everything applicable to your purpose. After that, we need to set up your Qualtrics account. It may take a few hours or overnight to get it approved. So let's get on it. And then Thursday, let's meet again in my office, like meet with each of the groups so we can start the survey and you will need to collect data next week. Okay, so that is our plan. We're gonna start with the lecture part. All right, so for the lecture about survey development and design, we started with basic components of a survey. Who can tell me what are the basic components you have to have in a survey? It's just introduction. Okay, so I know that you all made those questions about your topic, but never forget there needs to be an introduction. So when you start your Qualtrics, that first page needs to be in the introduction. Last time we talked about different formats of survey questions. Someone give me an example of a format. Michael?
Multiple choice.
Multiple choice. So that's probably the most basic type of question. It is more suitable for descriptive analysis, such as the percentage. And actually, once you have collected your data in Qualtrics, it will automatically generate kind of a pie chart for you. What is the second type of survey question? Yeah.
Is it called Likert scale?
Yeah, it's called the Likert scale. So, I actually have a few tips on lighter scale. Basically, you respond to some statements, from on the 1 to 5 or 1 to 7 range. Lighter scale. What about the search type? Anyone remember a search format? Michael again?
Is it open-ended?
Open-ended, well, for sure, open-ended is one. But when we talk about different formats, we are talking about closed-ended questions.
Oh, okay.
There's one that you put them on a bipolar kind of format that's called semantic differential. So the point here is not to remember the names. There's no point of remembering those names, but to know how to use them. Okay. And today we're gonna review a list of do's and don'ts. So what should you do when you make a survey, and what should you avoid when you make a survey? And before we go into any of these tips, I need to tell you some of this are based on my experience of making surveys as a researcher, but a majority of them are based on other people's research. And when I read them, I feel like, oh, I really feel this is very important. So I just extract a few tips for you. I hope you can follow them. But I want you to first reflect on what is one thing you've learned so far about making survey that you didn't know or expect before this class. So, like, if you can give other students some tips about making a survey, do you think you can come up with any suggestions? Yes? You feel like you learned something? What is that? Maya?
I would say that when we met with you, like a lot of you said, a lot of our questions were like positive, like on the positive end. Like I did not think of that, like when we were thinking them out and stuff, because it is like kind of hard to like disagree with something that is like how we, like one of our questions was like, is it fair? And it was like, obviously it's like they wanted to, like it should be fair, they should agree with it, but like the way we word it, would like throw off the person's response and make it seem like their answer was like wrong in a way, and it's like really their opinion based.
Yeah.
But the way we word it is like, make it seem like they don't think it's fair, then they're making it wrong.
Yeah, so the background about Samaya, their group's research is about NIL and students' opinion about NIL. And they want to see if there needs to be more resources provided to the student athletes. Well, the overall answer is obvious, yes, but the deeper question is how, right? So reflect on your own topic. Do not bias your respondent into answering your survey in a certain way. That is very important because as a researcher, you want to kind of distance yourself a little bit from this research process to make sure that the result you get is actually the fact. Okay, so that's a very good tip. Any other suggestions? Any other things you've learned? You already know everything? One thing I do want you to realize is that making survey is not as simple as you thought it could be. I think many students think, oh, let's just throw out some questions there. Everything needs to be carefully thought through. Like I think I once mentioned garbage in, garbage out. So don't design a garbage to collect some more garbage. Okay. I also, well, this link, I've already opened it, it's up here. This is something that I actually have been following because I saw this job posting from the Sixers. And it is actually about making a survey, just to let you know that what you are learning in this class is actually something that sport teams are doing. So they are no longer accepting applications. I think about 3 weeks ago, they're still accepting applications. They were looking for someone. We all know the Sixers, so we can skip all of that. Execute fan-focused research initiatives include planning, administering, and analyzing year-round consumer survey. Gather, validate, and synthesize fan data from multiple resources. Okay, leverage qualitative research as well to augment the customer profiles in terms of qualifications. You need to have some background about market research and doing surveys, but not a lot. So I think based on this job description, like if you do this course project and then you get a little bit more experience with setting up a survey, you all should be pretty qualified for this job. It sounds kind of very complicated, but it's kind of maybe an entry level job. Okay, so what I want to say is that making survey is not easy. Well, the first thing you need to understand is how people respond to survey questions. You need to be able to think from the survey taker's perspective. There is this process, this cognitive process that people need to go through. First, they need to read the question and they need to understand it. That's called comprehension or comprehend. After they understand your question, no matter how they understand it, they need to retrieve or retrieve. Retrieve. Thank you. They need to retrieve their memories or their evaluations, or just because most of our survey questions would be based on something that has already existed. Okay, existing stuff. So they need to retrieve that memory. And then once they have that piece of memory ready, and then they combine that with their understanding of your question, then they make judgment and estimation of how they should respond. Okay, and then the final step is they report their answer. Whether it's a check mark or they need to type in something, they go into that final reporting step. So these are the 3-step process for each of the questions that they need to answer. So anything that happens throughout this process, if there's anything wrong, that would affect the final information you have in the end. Okay, so be aware of this process and think about, is my question easy to comprehend, or would they comprehend my question in the way that I want my question to be understood? Is my question framed in a way that is easy for people to estimate, to retrieve their memory, and it is easy to report? Okay. So the first tip, use words that people actually understand. Maybe you all may not get into this problem. This may be more applicable to people like me that do maybe too much research and sometimes use kind of terms or jargons that the average person are not really familiar with. But still make sure every piece of your question, people understand what that means. A question that I have a sport gives other a glimpse about me. That was a question that measures something called a sport involvement. So when I first saw that question, I was thinking, what does a glimpse mean, right? What do you mean by a glimpse about me? Is there a better word for that? Sport give other people a glimpse about me. Maybe sport tells other people who I am, right? Is that a better way to frame that question? Would you rather be involved in live sport or e-sport? Maybe I have shown this question to you before in one of the sample survey, but like, what is live sport, right? That is a problem with comprehension. Do people understand live sport the same way? People may think it is the opposite of e-sport. Or people may think it's live broadcasted sport, which would be different. What is the communication and connection like in e-sport versus live sport? Good, mild, and bad? Again, what does that mean, right? So be specific and be very clear about your question. Connected to that, the first tip is the second tip about conceptual variability. So this may be similar to that question I showed about live sport, right? What is live sport? But it is also about, well, let me give you this example here. Conceptual variability in the question, have you smoked at least 100 cigarettes in your entire life? This is not sport at all, and I see some of you are having a small, interesting facial expression, but this is based off a research study. So basically, the research, when people were asked this question, how are they going to answer it, and how do they understand it? Okay, here's what they found. So the green in this pie chart represents the people who think by that question, it was only talking about cigarettes you have finished. So 23% of people think, okay, when I answer this question, I only need to care about that cigarettes that I have finished. The kind of yellow area is cigarettes you finished or partially smoked. So another 33% of people think I only need to care about I need to care about cigarettes I have finished or partially smoked. And then the rest 54% of people think that even just one puff, I need to count that in my answer. Okay, so this is conceptual variability. And based on how you understand that question, your answer would vary greatly, right? And I hope yours answer are 0, no matter what. But if you have some level of experience with that, that would affect your answer a lot. So definitely think about, so if you're asking, have you ever sport bet, right? Does that mean like you need to get really serious about it to count that as one experience? Or I'm not an active gambler at all, but when I first visited Vegas, I tried maybe just a couple of times, and I didn't really like it. Do you count that experience as one time as well, right? So clarify that conceptual variability. Frequency question. This will be very, very relevant in, I think, all of your project. Who think you will have a frequency question in your survey, right? All 3 groups, because we want to understand people's behavior and how frequent, how do they do it. So frequency question, again, that conceptual variability. When you mention the word few, like or when you give people the option few, how often do you engage in online sport betting? A few times a week or a few times a year. How do people understand that few? In this research, this is again not about sport gambling, but to show you the conceptual variability in frequency question. When people are asked the word, are provided with the option few, around 12% of them think it's less than 2 times a year, but also there are 33% think it's 7+ times per year, and about 19% think it's 10+ times per year. Right? So yeah, they all answer, yeah, they do it a few times a year, but the numbers are actually very, very different. Right? How should we solve this problem? Is this a problem? It probably is, right? How are we going to solve it?
Like for us, for example, when we ask like how many hours a week we put in, like would it just be like we like give them the numbers, but still like 4 to 6, and like whatever? Is that what you mean for that? Or
So you can give people numbers or ranges.
like basically ranges to like pick from instead of like just doing like an open-ended like version of it.
Okay, so basically you want to convert the open-ended to more like numbers options, right? That a hand? Mike?
Yeah, I think we had a question like this. And we made it like with choices, like a range, like how many times per month do you gamble, and then like the last one would be like other, they can just put in their own thing, is that acceptable? Like if I don't list their option, they can just put in
And
exactly.
what options do this?
I don't know, I could look at it, I don't know exactly what we did, but it was like how many times per month. Then the final option was other, so they could just put in their own.
Okay, how many times per month?
Yeah.
Right, instead of asking, do you do this a few times a month or very often?
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe we have, I think when I met with the groups last week, we have already talked about this. So be careful with words like oftentimes, regularly, sometimes, a few times a week, all those more text-based options or qualitative options, instead of doing that where people understand it in very different ways. Just ask for a number. How many times in a typical week or how many times in a typical month do you do this behavior? Okay, and and you can ask them for a specific number. And of course, provide like other is specified if you want to do a range, and that range, some people may be out of that range. Another tip is to provide hints or provide some help, so it makes it easier for people to answer your question. And this is about the retrieving in their memory part of that 4-step process. Sometimes if you may ask a question and people don't really have that information like readily accessible in their mind, right? Or they are afraid that they may not record a very accurate answer. So you can provide them some hints. And this question is based off a previous project. How many ESU sport events have you attended in the past 12 months? Oh, let's answer that question. Anyone answer that question? How many ESU sport events have you attended? Anyone has an answer to that? Sean, you've been quiet. What about you? Have you been to any sport games at ESU? No?
Like, not in the past 12 months.
Okay. What about you, Michael? No? 0? Oh, yes, you athletics, you do a better job. Well, if you always go to sport events, it may be hard for you to count, right? So how can we help people? Is you can add another line. Please think about sport events you have attended at the field house, the stadium, the white line field, and other sports arenas. So this is a way that so people can recall, oh, I have been into this specific space, right? And it's just provide people a hint so they can recall. And why I use the location, right? Why I use the stadium is because hints works the best with places, with locations. So let people recall their past experience based on the location. That works the best. The second best is based on activity. So you may also ask people, think about how many basketball games, football games, soccer games, or baseball games have you been to in the past 12 months, but that may not work as well as location. The third is people-based, and the worst hint or the least effective hint is based on time. People are bad at remembering times, and we are the best at remembering location, because location captures the overall experience. So when you give people hints, you may use location. Related to that, it encourages the use of records. When's the last time you purchased something over 500? If you're not sure, you may check your bank account, checkbook, or receipt book for help. I doubt if any people are using that. But just think about in your research, would you have those type of questions that you can encourage people to use some record that they keep. Okay, so for example, in the past, there are several groups interested looking at student athletes GPA. And there was this one group that want to ask their GPA during their sports off season versus in season, like semester GPA, because in season GPA may not be as good. That's what I heard. But student athletes like everyone may not remember your GPA, right? Until you go to your advisor's office. So you can tell them, get on your my ESU and check your semester GPA. Or just encourage people to do that, because if you don't do so, what will happen? They will just put in some random number, right? So tell people, remind them to check, whether they go check or not, that is their business. Avoid calculation. How long have you been a member of the rec center? That would be a calculation question. The same thing with how old are you? If you ask me how old I am, I need to calculate because I am old enough to do that calculation. But you can ask people instead of that, when did you become a member at the rec center? So they can tell you, okay, I joined the rec center in this certain year, or in that certain semester, instead of doing that calculation. Another example is if you ask me, I'm using a lot of example about me because this is about people's personal experience. If you ask me how long I have been in the United States, it will be hard for me to answer because I need to use this year, 2024, and minus the year that I came here, which was 2012. And that was 12 years. So you see that calculation process? I need to do the calculation. But if you just ask me, when do you come to the United States? I can tell you it was 2012, okay? And then you, as a researcher, you need to do the calculation by yourself. Another thing with, again, age. Always ask people, in what year were you born instead of what age are you? First, that is a calculation problem. The other thing that you may not realize so much with your project is you may collect a data and you leave it there for a few years before you actually analyze it and report your finding. So after a few years, people get older, right? So you may want to calculate your age in a different way. So if you just let people report their age, you need to add up that number. But if you let people report what year they were born, that number will never change. Okay, so that's another thing you can consider. Let me just give this final tip, and then we move on to the quadrics part. All right. I have a few more tips, but I think we can get onto that when I work with each of the group. And this one is very important. Before you set up your quadrics, you need to know this: recency effect and primary effect. And again, both are based off hardcore science in psychology about how people process information and like cognitive activity. Recency effect is people tend to better remember and prioritize information that is presented to them most recently. And the primary effect would be the opposite. That is a cognitive bias where people tend to better remember and give greater weight to information that is presented to them first. Is that fair? You understand that? Okay, so question is, how does this relate to you making a survey? Do you think this would affect the way people answer your survey? Do you feel there is resisting effect in your life? Yeah. Then I put the oral communication. Someone give me an example. Jess, I saw that you were nodding your head.
An example?
Okay, let me go to Ray. Yeah.
An example would be like, after this, I have like a football meeting, that we're gonna go football phase, and then we're gonna go run one field, so that's something I learned like recently. It's like
Okay.
oral communication,
Well, why is that resisting?
is that just fine?
You just learned it, okay. So risk is the effect, and you all can think about this, and not sport related. And you may know that I have 2 young daughters, so they're great examples of human cognition and how things can develop. So if I ask my youngest one, she is 1.5 now. If I ask her, do you want this? Yes or no? She would say no. If I ask her, do you want this? No or yes? She would say yes. So people will just use the information that comes presented to them the most recently, the options that were given them at the last. Does that make sense? Especially if it is oral communication. Okay, so why does this matter? Because surveys used to be done through telephone. So in a telephone communication, actually the person who is surveying you will call you and read to you the questions and options. And people tend to choose options that were given to them at the last page. Well, I do not expect any of you to call anyone for your research. So primary effect is another thing. It's the opposite. People tend to choose the option that is provided to them first. Okay, look at this. There's a reason why I put this picture here. Excellent. Well, yeah, you hope that people are saying that you're excellent, but that could also be partially there is that influence of you give people the excellent option first. Okay. So why I want to show you this before you move on to your quadrics is if you don't have your options in the right order, these 2 effects, especially the primary effect, will affect your survey. Many people would put the best option as their first one, such as let's see, how happy are you with your experience with sport betting? People tend to put the first one as I'm very satisfied, and the last one as I'm not satisfied at all. That is when you will have a huge primary effect, because you give people the happiest option at the beginning, combining with another effect that I haven't talked about is social desirability. People want to say good things about themselves and to other people. So those 2 effects combined will bias your findings a lot. So every time when I see people survey, I tell them flip your options. Right? Flip your options. Just accept the fact that people don't like this. And flip it will make your answer more objective. Okay, so this will be the last thing I talk about, and more stuff left, we'll just leave it in a group meeting, and we will take care of all this, things. So now you can turn on your laptop, okay? Ready? Just look up ESU projects. ESU projects, and it should be the first link. You can read this, when you have the time, but we're gonna click Qualtrics login request. So who can use Qualtrics, faculty, and a bunch of stuff. I do want to point out, and because I learned this, I was doing some kind of consulting work for a nonprofit organization. And then I realized I cannot use Qualtrics for that purpose because you cannot do that. Okay, just to remind you, using Qualtrics for third party, for-profit, and not-for-profit organization are not allowed. So after you sign up, you will have access, but do be very careful and don't get yourself into trouble. So yeah, just put in the information. Departments is sport management. And the only place you need to be careful about is explain the purpose of your survey, and I will tell you what to put there later. Title of your research, make sure everyone in your group putting the same information. Would be today. Where this project started, you can put today. And is there an end date? Yeah. End date, put the last day of this semester.
Is that right? We can, anyway. Very important, I think, Sandra. Very good.
Okay, so proposed start date is today. So we can start it at safety, proposed end date, last day of the semester. Like May. I know commencement is May 5th, so maybe you put May 5th. Explain the purpose, have your survey been approved or confirmed it does not need to be reviewed by RD, click yes. 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 Please explain the purpose of your survey. This survey is for a course project in SMGT440. For the purpose of learning how to design a survey. Use the population, specify which level you are surveying. Check all three boxes. Because Yeah, just check all of that, but it doesn't mean that in your actual survey, you're going to survey the faculty member or other. And then you can fill in the rest. How will you use the survey data? Are we ready for that part yet? How will you use your survey data and who will it be shared with?
We don't need to know what people do.
Okay.
It says, if you can email address, you can make your money, you can talk to them.
No, we don't need email address. So for if you need email address to contact respondents, no. So how will you use the survey data and who will it be shared with? The survey data will be used to complete the course project. The data will only be shared with students in within the project and the course instructor. Okay, so you are, yeah, of course, people in your group will have access to the survey. I will also have access, but you're not gonna share it with anyone else in the class as well. But don't even mention that. But you're going to share the summarized findings for with other people. That's all you need to mention. Will this project become recurring? Well, unless you want to take this course again. Don't click no. Click no, and after that you can hit submit. Okay, after you do the submit, please close your laptop. So I want to show you how projects look like. But I'm not going to how you're gonna set it up. I think it's a matter of you play around with this platform. Okay, so once your account is approved, and everyone needs to get an account, not just one person in your group. Okay, once you're approved, you might go through a process of setting up a password, or you just use the same password with your YesU account. I don't remember how that works, but you should get an instruction. You can log in to Qualtrics. Just look up Qualtrics login and we'll log in. Like for me, I don't know how it will look for you. For me, I have two because I also have my personal one. But for me, I need to click university-wide. Okay, so if you also have two, you need to click university-wide. I don't know why it shows. Okay. So it may look like this, or it may look different. Because I have many surveys. You probably you have not. But always go to this people call that a sandwich button, and click on projects. Okay, click on project. These are all the projects that I have. For you, you should go to create a project. And then do not use any of these templates. Just start a survey and get started. And give it a title. And let me just do 440 and spring 2024. I'll create a blank survey project, create project. And then that's how you start. Okay. There's one thing I want to show you. Is only one person in your group create a project. This is a cloud-based thing, okay? So how you make it cloud-based and you can collaborate with a team is once you have created a project, okay, click on the three dots. So to come here, you need to go to your projects. Click on the three dots and click collaborate. Okay, and then putting people's email address. I got anyone's email address?
That's a little
That's
7 at live.est.edu.
little, and then what's
7.
7. At live.esu.edu. And then add selected. Just the tab. And then, check all of this, click save. What will happen is Samaya should get an email with a collaboration code. And once you log in, you can put in that collaboration code. Okay, so one person set up the project, other people, and invite all other people in your group and collab. That is how you can make changes on one project. Don't create each of your own version. But if your group, I know the soccer group have 2 versions, probably you can have one person do one, or you can do both and just add one collab. Okay, so that's how you should start the project. We have some time left. You can talk about your project a little bit, just to make sure you're all working, okay? We don't have to stay here until the end of the class time, but when you come in on Thursday, I want you to revise everything, just based off our previous meeting. If you feel very confident with your survey, you should also start this quadrix, okay? But if you don't feel confident, don't put things on there. Because if there's something I want you to change in the survey, like in your Google document, in your Word document, and you've already put the not so great survey on quadrix, you need to redo everything in quadrix, okay? But just use your own judgment. If you think you're ready, just start to put things on there. At least start the introduction page, I think. Just talk a little bit, make sure you know your action items, and then we call it the end of today's class.
It's not that much. Just we need someone to put that together.
Already?
Yeah, I just started to hear this. Sure.
This is week,
I hope you will come back.
I'm ready. I know that goes for the, he's not gonna make the, whatever, now we fit it in for presentation.
I hope you can.
And we have to do a PowerPoint too.
Don't graduate and you're looking at
It really is.
so. You should. Yeah, let's try to get first. If you don't have to use that out by product. I will email that to you, because for my first semester, using Office, it takes a little. And after that, she will have really use everything.
Like we'll get an email.
I have kind of, you know, yes, I have so many requests. Kevin, you can do the project.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
I'm just reading what you said there.
Okay, thank you.
What exactly did you want us to?
Yeah, to do my.
What?
I'm going to do my name.
Oh, yeah, yeah, but these are all the notes.
Yeah, I think my own, at the bottom of the class notes.
I think they're gonna email us.
Yeah,
You all have to then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I said, are you?
You're gonna be taking on me the direction.
It's like,
Yeah, just have it, like, once you have it, exactly. Once they approve it.
So make that more mature.
Oh, do you guys still have to do that?
Request, but we haven't made the.
Okay, I thought you guys already did, okay. So then they'll, you'll email us the account, how to do an account.
And then you said don't ask their gender or something?
Cause they're, maybe,
No,
right,
it's just.
right, next to the chat, what is the difference?
Okay.
Okay, why not?
16 for with the wooden,
Yeah.
Gender words and.
okay,
Why is
And
that?
why that is because you are not doing gender research.
Okay, that makes sense.
Next one is just ask people where they live, where people live, which state they live, instead of ask them, are you living in a state where it's legal or illegal, because first, they probably don't know where it is, may not be
Oh,
accurate.
okay,
but,
that
yeah.
makes sense, yeah.
Change question, age range, that you know, you did make a question 5 average, was question.
Sure, question 5, how much money would you say you spend on sports game and provide a range? Just make it whatever.
Well, I think what I was saying that on average
Like how much?
per bet,
Okay,
because someone would mistaken that as how much money I have spent, like, overall.
so,
Change around. How many hours in a typical question, 7, 6 questions?
I said, how many days out of the week will you typically place a bet?
Yeah, remember that discussion?
Yeah.
So just change.
Change to what? How many hours?
Live on that.
Well, what would you?
So we're question 7, right?
Yeah, it was how much?
Michael, it's not possible to make all of the changes,
Oh, okay,
because it's a lot of changes.
alright.
So I just want to make sure you all.
Yeah, just send me a picture of that.
Yes, I put you guys in a group chat.
Okay, and if there's any, or just talk, because I feel like you made a good note and you probably remember what we talked about. And if anything, it still needs to be fixed, we can do that on Thursday,
Okay.
okay?
So we don't have to do the ball tricks thing.
Not until we finish.
I think this
Finalize.
verbal, situation, let's finalize that first, and then set up one.
Got it.
So we'll show you the revised one on Thursday.
Yeah, yeah, well, you can start the first page. Can you start the intro page,
Right, the introduction, okay.
introduction, and also the filter one?
So our intro was good.
Yeah, the intro and the end.
Because why I want you to start is I want you to give you the flow, because if you have filters, you need to have flow.
Okay.
Yeah, so just put that in and,
Alright, okay.
Dude, it's out of nowhere.
Crazy.
I really haven't had work all.
Exactly. Yeah, I gotta do that too. How much left to go though? Are you the same time? You're the same.